Will Senator Rodriguez yield?
Question.
Yes, sir. I yield.
I'm not an attorney, and you are, and you've been in the courtroom many times, I'm sure. Is it a constitutional right for citizens of this state who are indigent to have counsel?
Senator Lucio, it is a constitutional obligation imposed on counties to provide indigent defense representation to all of those who cannot afford a lawyer when they have been charged with a crime. Your county and the county of each and every member here on this floor is obligated by the Constitution to furnish legal representation to a person accused of a crime who is indigent. The problem that we have, sir, is that those funds have become very limited. Similarly, the funding for civil legal services has become very limited. There's a shortfall. What we are attempting to do here is to fulfill that constitutional obligation as well as the duty and responsibility, and I would add moral responsibility, to provide representation to all who need it, whether it's in the civil arena or in the criminal arena. Now, I was here when Chief Justice Jefferson gave his State of the Judiciary address, and he pleaded with us to put funding into civil legal services and indigent defense. And in fact, Justice Jefferson was very eloquent. He said, we have a system where, essentially I'm paraphrasing, where the powerful and the wealthy can have access to our courts, and a system where some of the most vulnerable can have access to the courts, but yet we are now at a time when veterans cannot access legal services, victims of family violence can access legal services, the elderly who are in need of legal support cannot access legal services. Only 1 out of 5 of our members of our community who cannot afford lawyers are able to access our courts. And members, I saw a lot of young people here earlier today. They're all gone because we've been here a long time. But there were a lot of young people out here today that I'm sure are being taught in their schools, as we all were, and as we all recognize, that this is a country where we provide equal justice for everyone.
What happens?
And so,
what happens?
Yes, sir.
Senator Rodriguez, what happens if in this session we don't properly fund or help find the necessary funds to help these indigents or to help these poor people that need help with legal rural aid, let's say, to be able to have these legal services? What happens to them, in your opinion?
Well, what's going to happen to the clients, if you will, is that they will not be able to get representation. The woman who is the victim of domestic violence, of family violence, is not going to be able to get her representation to go into court and get a protective order or to get support from the court system. Meaning that that woman is going to be subjected not only potentially to serious bodily harm, potentially, as I've witnessed many times as county attorney in El Paso, who handle protective orders in that jurisdiction, women who are getting killed, and they get killed every day across this country. So let me just finish my answer to your question, because you're asking a very good question as to what's going to happen to them. That's what's going to happen to them personally. But what's going to happen to the rest of us, apart from the moral implications of not having been there to provide the assistance that these folks need, is that we as taxpayers are going to have to end up paying more money for that person who's going to end up in the emergency rooms, for that elderly person who can't access Medicaid or other services that they're entitled to.
Well,
right?
I just want to tell you, I think it's late in the session. If we ever had a chance to make a difference to that segment of the community, of the population of this state, we have it now. And it's unfortunate, it appears, obviously at this point, that we're short of having the support we need to make sure we do the right thing for those that we need to help. So I thank you for your efforts. Thank you.
Thank you. I do want to add, Senator Lucio, that there's a lot of support for this bill from all sectors of the state of Texas, from our State Bar Association, from our justice of the Supreme Court, and other justices in the court, like Nathan Heck, who came before the committee and testified in favor of the bill, from the various bar associations from your communities. There is a lot of support for the need for funding for legal services and for indigent defense. And so I don't want to give the impression that there is, because there are some people here who don't provide the support, that there's not support for this out there.
Senator Ellis, for what purpose do you rise, sir?
To ask a few questions, Mr. President, make a few comments on this
Senator
bill.
Rodriguez yield?
I yield, Mr. President.
Senator, you put a lot of time into this bill and a lot of effort, a lot of work, and I know that you're very sincere about it. And I think you got a lot of support. Some members might have some concerns about the method of finance. I mentioned to Senator Duncan earlier, obviously because we do fees in so many areas to pay for so many things, that creates heartburn. But this is an area where I think all of us realize it is so important because if people on the civil as well as the criminal side members don't have access to the courts, it costs us money in the long run because we end up with more people incarcerated, as he mentioned, battered women and other issues. So I'm hoping that members will just forget about a lot of the other issues that have gone on during the day. If you didn't get a chance to make your case earlier, you'll still get a chance as this bill works through the process. It is interesting that it is Representative Hartnett on the House side who is carrying this bill. As Senator Rodriguez mentioned, strong support from bar associations all across the state. Texas, in a lot of ways, has not done nearly enough in terms of these issues. So I'm hoping that members, in addition to strongly considering voting with Senator Rodriguez on this amendment tonight, even if we don't make it tonight, you'll help us look for other revenue streams, other methods of finance, because we simply cannot afford not to put more money into indigent defense. And I also want to say to some of you who are more conservative than others, if we pass this, at least you can come back in 2 years and sweep it somehow. There's been a tendency to do that. You might want this to pass so you can get the money 2 years from now. So I hope you'll help our friends who have to catch the early bus, Senator Ogden, on this. So that's sort of my question to you, Senator Rodriguez. You got a good bill. I hope we get it tonight. And if not, I hope that many of our colleagues that have been talking to us about this bill are committed to helping you find another method of finance or another vehicle. It's an important issue. So thank you for bringing it up.
Thank you, Senator.